All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Winifred Soribe, and we already have a few familiar faces here already. And you know me, and I know several, I think almost everyone here. So it's good that we are becoming sort of a close-knit family. We have Harry on today, and Harry is a founder. He's the CEO of Housr, and Housr is a student accommodation platform where students and property providers can interact, students can rent houses, and property providers, landlords, or whoever can list their properties on the platform. So we have him, and he's going to be telling us a bit about his entrepreneurial journey. I've not really met Harry per se, we've just been in the same community for a short period of time, and I saw his post when he launched Housr last year. And so I've sort of kept track on how the business has been doing year late. And so that's how I've known him. And when I was sort of short on who to bring on, I sort of remembered Harry and I said, let me reach out to him to see if he would like to come on. And he was happy to come on. So that's how we're here today. So Harry, if you could introduce yourself to the group, and then we'll make a start with the conversation.
Yeah, sure. No, thanks for having me. So, when you said, I'm Harry. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Housr. Housr is a end-to-end platform that enables students to find flatmates, find a home, and manage that home all in one. We were building Housr with the student in mind, and realised the problem is paralleled on the agents or property operators side. So we also have an online portal where letting agents and landlords can manage their homes and tenants as well. I'm also the chair of the Institute of Directors for Manchester. So I represent all of the directors in Manchester and go back and forth with government, lobbying them for any issues that the business owners in Manchester have. And that's me, really. That's me in a nutshell. We've got a team of 6 at the moment. And it's a really big, really busy period of time for us at Housr. So very busy, but more than happy to come on here today.
Great, thanks. And it's busy as well. I'm a lecturer, so I know what September, October is like. A lot of students coming in and stuff. So I can really imagine that it's a busy time for you guys at Housr. So let's dive into the conversation, Harry. Let's go back to where it all started. You're quite a young entrepreneur. I think you said you're 22, so quite young. And we want to know sort of how it all started. If we go back to your childhood and you think about it, were there any role models that have set you on the path to starting your own business as opposed to going and getting a big corporate job, which is okay, which would have been normal, because I think you studied economics and political science. So
yeah, I did. Yeah.
So why have you come to this route?
Well, basically, I think when I was a lot younger, to begin with, my whole life has been education driven. Like, do well at school, do well at A levels, get really, really good A levels, go to an amazing university, to get a good degree, go into investment banking. That's just been the path. And then on the side, when I was younger, I had an idea for a software company which matched photographers for people who need a photographer. But at the time I was 15, I had no money. I was like, how the hell do I get this started? The easiest thing to start at the time was a clothing brand where I sell clothes that I own the prints on and sell them to my mates. I managed to make enough startup capital to start the software company, and then I ended up actually getting rid of the software company for a bit for some compensation. I sold it in the end, and at the same time I started a media company. So I had all these different ventures, but then I came to university and I was like, I always loved this idea of starting something at university, that university vibe, that really like scrappy on the ground kind of thing. And me and my co-founder, who just sat over there actually with the team, we realized when we were going through housing ourselves that there was such a lack of guidance, and we were so like overwhelmed by how to actually find a home. And we played cricket at university together. We did, and we were at the students' union with having a couple of beers and thought, we can do this a lot better. And there it happened. That's where Housr was born. And ever since then, I was doing Housr. But funny story, you say role models in corporate world, Housr was still a massive risk at the time, and I had my family in one ear saying, get a stable income. And on this side, like, no, go for Housr, go for your startup dream sort of thing. But I did eventually actually get a quite a good consultancy job straight out of university. So I was doing that 7:30, 8:30 till 5:30, then 5:30 till like 10, 11 at night doing Housr. And I realized after about a year it was unsustainable. So I've been full time on Housr now for just over a year. So that's kind of the journey in like a minute or two. There's loads of different ups and downs in between there, but that's kind of a brief overview of how I got to where I am right now.
Yeah, so quite interesting to hear about that, especially, with the, ironing clothes and stuff like that, to be able to sort of get the software company off the ground. So when you sold your software company, how old were you then?
18.
Wow. So before you entered university. Okay.
Yeah. But it wasn't a big sale at all. But it allowed me to have some capital to put into my company now, put into a media company that I had at the time. And while I started at university, I was doing like brand enhancements, websites, logos, designing strategies for clients, and rebranding them. And that was my media company for a while, just as a cash cow to get through university. But then obviously we got investment for Housr, and so I didn't need to do that anymore. But on the side now, I still consult for a couple of existing clients just to help them out. But obviously now my full thing is Housr.
Okay, so let's go back to where you're done with university. You have got this good consultancy job, and you're in between the consultancy job and Housr. How did you come to this conclusion to leave the consultant job, which is quite a huge decision to make, the security that it offers you and things like that, to now put your whole time into Housr? How did you make that decision?
I think I'm in a very privileged position being young and a young founder, because I think I've spoken to a lot of people about starting a business or not starting a business, and I think the biggest barrier to entry is the fear of the unknown. And when you're a little bit older, that you haven't got that safety net. I've been working on Housr just over 2 years. I can fail 2 years worth of houses 5 times. I can do Housr 5 times over and still just be over 30, and then go into another career. So that said, there's a massive safety net for me there in terms of age. But I think the biggest thing is, it wasn't necessarily a decision. I think it was always going to happen. I can't really explain it. I was doing my job in the day, and I found myself all the time thinking about Housr. And there's one thing, especially now I employ people, I would hate to, not put 100% into something. And it got to a point where I just wasn't committed enough to the role because my brain and everything else was elsewhere. It was with Housr. And, also I think I grew up very quickly to realize you can't do everything yourself. So I couldn't run a company and be a consultant at the same time in a high pressure environment. I was, not trying to navigate growing up in general and still going out and having fun with my friends. So something had to give to be able to give 100% to what I really wanted to give to. And I always knew that was Housr. So it was an obvious choice to make. But I think the biggest thing is just understanding that, you have to make sacrifices to achieve your dreams, but also the idea that I can't do everything myself.
Okay, great. Just to let everyone, in the audience know that it's a conversation. And so if you have any questions that you want Harry to answer, please pop them in the chat. So I think that's really good thing. I think what really struck me with your answer, Harry, is that, you were at work at the consultancy firm and you're always thinking about Housr. It's a sort of a strong indication that that's where the interest is. Okay, so that's good. Thanks for that one. Now, I think before we carry on, if you were to give sort of young adults advice on sort of whether to start up a business or to go into a full-time role, what would you tell them to do? How would you advise that they make those kinds of decisions?
I think there's always, desire in a lot of people to want to start something and be your own boss and do something yourself. But I think there's a massive miscommunication in social media and things, that it is all fast cars, all money straight away. It's all easy. It's very hard. And at the same time, I think I would always say never go searching for an idea sort of thing. Have that in the back of your mind that you do want to start something, but your idea shouldn't just be for an idea's sake. It should be a problem to a solution, in my opinion. So if you have a real problem if you have a real solution to a problem, and you think you can figure something out and adapt a product or service to figure that issue out, then by all means go for it. It's hard. It's an uphill battle. You have ups and downs. It's a lot of risk. But if you've got a genuine solution to a problem, it's a good chance of it working. If you're coming out of university and deciding whether to do a startup or a job, and you choose a startup, then you just go and try and find an idea. I really don't think that's the right way to do it. And I think, having that stability, massively have that stability, get that corporate experience, definitely. But I do think, make sure that your idea is an actual solution to a problem, and you understand the risks and pros to it. But to be honest with you, I just think go for it. What you've got nothing to lose at that age, really. You've just come out of university. It's hard to say. It's all relative to the person's situation, their financial situation, their background, their family. Some people are luckier than others to have a safety net in respect to finance with family and things. But I think overall, just make sure your idea is a genuine solution, and just full on go for it. But make sure you're weighing up the risks at the same time.
Okay. Fantastic, because your answer really sort of ties into sort of the gospel we preach at Founders and Mentors here, which is, the main reason why businesses fail, a lot of businesses, is because, or startups rather, there's no market need for their product or service. So sort of really going in there and saying, make sure that what you're providing is a solution to an existing problem. It's quite key. It's very key. So thank you for that one. Now, so that really ties into my next question. If we come in and we look at the sort of the student accommodation industry, the statistics I got off Google said that it's what, $3 billion. So that's £3 billion. Sorry, that's the UK student accommodation industry. What do you think the future of this industry is going to be like? Do you see it growing? Do you see it staying stagnant, or do you see it declining? What exactly are your thoughts?
What's quite ironic actually is that in the modern day, the student accommodation sector is just the same and mirrors the normal accommodation, the normal housing, normal letting space. Overall right now there's a massive supply squeeze. There's so many people trying to find a home, especially in London and cities like London and Manchester, and there's so little supply, so prices are skyrocketing. But I think overall the future of lettings in general, and this includes student lettings, to directly answer your question, is I think there'll be no need for middlemen anymore. I think the way the population is going, with things like the Web3, the blockchain, and general society's demand for greater transparency with things like the governmental decisions, and capacity of ownership, being able to own your home, being able to own a process, being able to control exactly what's going on in your life, I think will genuinely in 5 years take over. And what I mean by that is that peer-to-peer lettings will be something that everyone is common with, where I can through an app for a platform, I can do absolutely everything I need to do without the need for middlemen. Therefore, I'm not waiting for someone else, I'm not relying on someone else's service to make sure my process is done there and then. I'm not challenged, or I'm not volatile or vulnerable to volatile changes in the market or the economy, because I'm owning that process for a peer-to-peer letting system with a facilitator in the middle. And this isn't a sales pitch, but I hope that is Housr's vision, to be that facilitator, because I think everyone nowadays should be, people, I put it this way, people do, the average Joe, say, does 96% of their daily tasks on their phone. And at the minute, housing doesn't seem to be one of them. And housing's such a demand elastic thing. Everyone needs housing. Everyone needs a roof over their head. So I think it will transition to fully digital, and I think the whole process will digitize. I think prices will keep going up and up and up for a long time. I don't think they're gonna stop for a while, especially how the economy is at the moment. And I think people want more ownership. So they want the lack of middlemen, and direct to consumer, to the renter and to the landlord or the owner. So I think it will grow, but I think it'll be much more ownership centric.
Okay, so that's quite a fascinating response. So let's think about some of the big wigs. I don't know what their names would be, but where I stay in Luton, there's a university, so there are quite a lot of student accommodation buildings around. So let's think about a big student accommodation provider. And since you're saying there'll be no need for middlemen, so would they have to sort of develop their own kinds of houses or list on houses? Is that what you're sort of thinking it will be like in the future?
Yeah. So I still think that there's definitely always going to be a need for letting agents, and we use letting agents. We've got some amazing partners, some amazing partner letting agents. I just feel that, and I think what you're referring to is what we call PBSA, which is purpose-built student accommodation. These big skyscrapers that have like dorm rooms, that private dorm rooms in there. They will always exist, and letting agents will always exist. I just think that the demand for that more direct and peer-to-peer process will encourage these partners to adapt and digitize all their processes. And yes, I hope that we can facilitate that digitization by them onboarding onto our platform, and we can help them facilitate that to the demand of the population as it is. But they will always exist. I'm not saying they're going to be rid of. I'm just saying they're going to have to adapt, and we're hoping we can help them do that.
Fantastic, fantastic. So I have a few questions popping up already. The first one comes from Seven. Seven says, do you think the economic state right now will impact property prices, especially in areas like London?
Yeah, 100%. So quite interesting. So with me being the chairman of the Institute of Directors in Manchester, I speak to the London branch quite a lot, especially the Director General, John Gilbert, who is an amazing person. He is a very knowledgeable person. But the central IOD gets briefed by like Cobra and the Bank of England quite often. And we were talking that I don't think there'll be a recession as such at all, because the unemployment is really low. Employment vacancies are very high. And people are very liquid. They're just not spending enough at the moment. So it's almost like it's our own. I'm not saying it's our own fault at all, but we're very liquid. But the way to get out of this situation is to start spending again, right? And to stimulate the economy. But we aren't doing that because we're scared of everything that's going on. And with the lack of spending, prices will keep increasing, especially with the supply squeeze. There's the supply squeeze massive. And it's quite interesting to see that with the new chancellor, he is talking about trying to generate further housing to reduce that supply squeeze. So once that supply squeeze is reduced, I do feel like the prices can plateau out a little bit once that's reduced over time in the next 4 to 5 years. But in the current process with the economy the way it is, and people not spending, even though they are as liquid as ever, having more cash in their account than ever, I do feel like prices will increase until we do start spending and bite the bullet. But I think with everything, this sort of thing's cyclical. So I do think they'll drop. I can't say when at all. If we were the letting space, the actual letting space, it's ridiculous at the moment. You wouldn't think you have to bid on a property to let it, would you? You're now bidding on a property and giving the landlord like increased prices to what they're asking for to let the property. So the whole market is changing. But I do think prices will increase for a while until the supply squeeze or people start spending more in the general economy again. And hopefully that's soon.
Yeah, and you're quite right, because really recession is a case of GDP once it begins to decline, and like you said, the spending is not as it should be, so it's going to create a bit of problem. So hopefully the tax cuts should incentivize people to spend. That's the whole point, but we'll see how things go.
Exactly.
So thank you very much for that answer. Let's move on. We see Simon has another question, and then we'll carry on with the conversation. So what is the hard side of your platform, renters or landlords? How did you scale both? So what is the hard side of your platform, renters or landlords, and how did you scale your business?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's something that I ask myself every day because it's the biggest problem we have. Obviously the hard side for us is housing, our housing stock. It's a chicken and egg. Greater levels of housing brings greater levels of students. Greater levels of students bring greater levels of housing. And how do you penetrate that revolving door? You can't build a two-sided platform whilst focusing on both things. Going back to what I said earlier, you can't be a consultant and a co-founder CEO at the same time. you need to prioritize what the hard side. So we are prioritizing the housing side. With students, I've got quite a lot of network with students in general still. I was president of the cricket club when I was at university, so I'm very much integrated within the sports scene in Manchester at the universities. And through that, last week we just launched a society partnership program, where most of the students will be onboarded onto our platform, through also official partnerships with universities, where when you go to university, you get an email. You get an email associated to your university. You also get a Housr account to sort out your second year plus housing. So the student side, it's not an issue because it's also popular and we're giving great value to them. The housing side is the hard part. We're trying to, even though we're streamlining things for them, we're automating things, we're saving them time and money, we're still novel. So we've got to run along parallel alongside Rightmove, Zoopla, and what they're using right now.
Yeah.
But at a point where we're doing what we say on the tin, but at the moment they're not going to get rid of Over Here and Rightmove and Zoopla. They're going to keep that. So even if they do adopt us, and we are saying we are marketing and we actually are charging less rates and we are streamlining operations, we're still going to be an additional time, resource, and an additional cost. So in first year, we've had to actually navigate that by creating parent agent offers, where we chose 4 agents in the area to go completely free for the first year, where we would constantly be working with them to make sure there's constant product to market fit and have a real good relationship with them, bolster our platform with housing, with initial level of housing. That would then attract further agents. I would then put those agents on a referral scheme, so they go and speak to other agents. If they get them on board, they get an extra year free. So then it becomes like an organic networking effect from that housing side, all based around those 4 parent agents. And then obviously, as more houses come, further houses come, and right now we're about to onboard about 1,500 units, ready for this next cycle, and we've got about 1,400, 500 students without any marketing, and that should go to at least 2,000 to 3,000 by the end of this quarter. So yeah, to directly answer your question in one sentence, it's choosing the hard side, prioritizing the hard side, and trying to create an organic networking effect on that hard side, by dropping your price points to begin with, but then put them on a referral scheme at the original price points for the rest of the year.
Okay, and that's quite a very good strategy. I'm sure Simon would agree, for a startup. Now, the case is that the area I'm particularly interested is the finance and the costing, because I'm an accountant by training. So when I hear you talk about the referrals that are going to be free, and if they bring on more people, they get an extended year of referrals. How are you managing the cost of these free services that you're providing to the agents?
So to begin with, we have multiple revenue streams. So our main revenue stream doesn't depend on letting agents paying or landlords paying. We also offer bills, because we're trying to be a Swiss Army knife for housing. We can do everything for a student, and that means that we can offer bills to them as well. So we actually make money through billing. We actually make money through ad partners, because students are one of the most valuable demographics globally. And we also make money through something called purpose-built student accommodation and data sharing in a good way, to better help the students, but also help people at universities safeguard their students and stuff like that as well. But the costs are there, obviously, but we've raised multiple rounds of investment. We've raised friends and family, a pre-seed. We're now raising our seed round right now. So our seed round right now, we're raising just over £500,000. We've got 50% committed on that, and I close that in 2 months' time. So investment's key for us. We start generating revenue from next month at a very good rate to begin with. Even with prioritizing user volume over revenue in year one, we'll still do very well in year one. But the costings are very variable, because it's all about, a lot of it's time. I try and spend as much time as possible with the agents. I don't send a sales rep or anything. I want to get to know them myself with these parent agents. You can't really bill the founder's time. It's just I'll work whenever I have to. Do you know what I mean? So, but yeah, that's the strategy we kind of go down to keep them short. But we have got multiple levels of investment and a direct route to revenue as well.
Okay, good. It seems you've been pitching a lot. You have all your answers ready. So that's good. That's good.
It's my job. It's my job to do so.
It is quite impressive. I'll just take another question from Seven. Seven says, what do you think your industry would look like in 10 to 15 years, considering an expected population decline worldwide over the next few decades? No, let's see. What do you have to say? What do you think your industry would look like? And do you think population decline is going to affect it?
Yeah, I will. Also, happy birthday, Simon. I know I've seen you got to leave, so thanks for coming. Happy birthday. You're on mute. You're on mute. I can't hear
you. Sorry, Harry. I've got to leave, but thank you very much. This is fascinating. I'm definitely going to watch the recording. And
thank you so much.
Fabulous business model. I'm really interested. Bye, everybody.
Bye, Simon.
Bye. Sorry, no. It's quite a big question. That I think population decline. There's obviously the question if the population is going to decline anyway. But I think, housing. I literally had a conversation with my co-founder the other day. We're in a market that's inelastic. No matter what, you need a house, and no matter what, students need a home. And especially with the way earlier years education is working, the rates of admittance to universities and higher education are ever increasing. Meaning you've got a declining population, but an ever increasing population at university, meaning that the demand is always going to be increasing for university accommodation, and the general demand for housing doesn't move. Therefore, in my opinion, it's only going to get better. There's only going to be more demand for student accommodation and young professional accommodation, even with the population decline. And I feel like the population decline won't necessarily affect us for a while, if not ever, because we're only going to be in the UK, Western Europe, and the US. That's just based around how the university systems and frameworks that we work around. And I think, in my opinion, I'm not an expert on this tour, but I think just off the cusp of it, almost like eyeballing the answer to this question, I don't think population decline will occur in these areas for an awful long time, in these more developed areas in the world. So to answer your question, I don't think it'll affect it much. And if anything, it's just going to continue on a rate of increased demand, irrespective or indifferent to how the population increases or decreases over time.
Okay, great. And I think another thing to add on there is the most of these continents you're targeting, Europe, the EU, the US, attract large number of international students as well. So by the time you sort of merge both domestic and international, there'll always be, I think, a strong market for student accommodation. So that's one point there. So if we go on now to this whole financing as well, spend a bit of time on that. In terms of getting yourself investment ready, how have you managed to get? So you told us you're going to sort of finalize your $500,000 deal in a few months' time, in 2 months' time. What are some of the steps you took to get Housr investment ready, or more like get yourself investment ready as well?
I think I learned from mistakes. It's, there's no right or wrong way to get investment. There's this natural idea that you do this, and this, then this will happen, then you'll get investment. No, it's all lies. It's not lies, but it's all a misconception. I think there's so many different ways to get to A to B, and I think it depends on your business. It depends on who you are, how confident you are. If you've got a co-founder, which of you two are the person to go out and raise the investment? We realized that I was that person. I'm the kind of front-facing co-founder, and my co-founder Ben is the more technical guy in the background, and that's just how it works. I think when we first started, we were like, right, we need some cash. Where do we go? What do we do? We had a concept, an idea. We got some early stage investment from various people, one being our chairman, which is now just through pitching. So the first thing to directly answer your question is making sure that no matter what stage you're at, you can explain it. You can explain what stage you're at very easily and clearly in a pitch deck, and explain the vision, because at that point, pardon me, the people investing are investing in you as the co-founders or founder, and the vision of the business. If they invested in what it is right then at that point, that very early on, like pre-product and whatnot, it's almost like putting it on red or black at the casino. It's such a gamble. In fact, it's probably you've probably got better odds at getting your money back and putting it red or black than you have investing in a startup at that stage. So they are massively investing in the longevity, the vision, and the founders. So at that point, you have to convince and persuade people why you are the best person to lead this company and build this company, and why your vision fits in the market, why you're going to have product fit, and how that vision can take their investment and 100x over 5 years. And then you get to the stage, you get a product, you start having more of a concept, you build a team, you get early stage traction. It's proving what you've done with that existing money to get to here. So, and then showing what you can use on money wise to get from where you are then to the next stage. And it's showing that traction, it's proving that traction. And I think the next point would be how you get investment ready is actually, like I said, is actually building your personal brand, because even still at this stage, they're still investing in you and the founders. So I'd say first, you need to make sure you can explain your idea, convince people about yourself and the vision in a pitch deck. The next thing in between there is make sure you're getting out there, you're networking. I network loads, try to build my personal brand, online and physically, meeting people, speaking at things like this all the time, just getting my name out there. You never know. Then you get to the point where it's more based on your business now. So it's more based on your business. So it's making sure you can prove that with this amount of investment, you've got a clear route to revenue, because this amount of investment you're going to put into marketing, you're going to have a CPA cost per acquisition of a student of X amount. And over the course of 3 years, that student will bring in this amount of revenue through these revenue streams. Now it's based more about your product and your initial market fit. So that's all about proving traction on your product. So it goes from initial concept, proving things, persuading people about yourself and the business for a pitch deck. Then it's about networking, building your personal brand to make sure you've got a stable leadership team within that company. Then it's about actually proving your product, testing market fit, product fit all the time, and then proving and showing that and being transparent with how you've got from A to B and showing your metrics, showing your product. We try to build in public, where the strategy that came out of a meeting yesterday, I go and post on LinkedIn to show people how we are getting from A to B, and I think alongside all of that, like kind of imagine that as like a linear line, underneath it is always the line as well. It's always about building that trust and that relationship with these investors. It's and like any sales, you shouldn't go straight in and be like, oh, can I have £100,000 please? It should be, okay, let me tell you about the business, what are you up to, let's have a meeting in a couple months time and I'll tell you how we're getting on. 2 months time, you have another meeting. Oh, by the way, we're now raising, oh, brilliant, I've got to know you, I'd love to invest, because they know the business. So as well as doing all this, it's also about relationship building with people you think are key in the industry who want to get involved or invest in the future. So it's those things on that line, and also networking and building relationships with people that are key to your product or service in the industry.
Yeah, and it's good that whole relationship building, it's quite key, especially for startup founders that have, especially if it's a first-time founder, the relationships are extremely important. And so going into that area of relationship, I've seen, so you are the chairman of the Institute of Directors, the Manchester chapter. So this is quite fascinating. And if you could just tell us some of the tactics and how you sort of managed to be in this very, very significant position. How have you, so you said building your personal brand, but what can people do to sort of get to know the right people? So to founders that are starting out early or out of universities, don't really have a clue what to do, what are some things they can use to sort of build their connections, their ties? Because the social networks you build, even it's one of the cornerstones of my PhD research, it is a very significant relationship with access and finance. So I think that will be very helpful to some of the startup and student entrepreneurs we have in the audience.
So you're saying kind of how do you build your personal brand? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. How do you go and build your social networks as well? How are you able to meet these people that can really give you good opportunities and give for you and your business?
I think the first thing and the principle that probably underpins all this, and something that I try and live by, is say yes to as many opportunities as possible, if not all. Even if you don't think at the time it's an opportunity, you think it's just something interesting. You never know who you're going to meet, and so I think it's saying yes to an awful lot, getting yourself out there, jumping into the ecosystem you're in, going out and searching for one. And if there's not one, create one. If there's not one, create a networking event, because there'll be more people like yourself who are looking for yourself. There's a lot of people in this world. Go and create one if you can't find one. That's what I did. I was part of being chairman. I launched a young directors and founders network in Manchester, and we have regular events and meetups for young founders in the area to build a community of like-minded individuals. There wasn't anything really like that, and I was looking for it, so we created it. I think people, I'm not saying build it and people will come. You've obviously got to definitely get your name out there with it all, but there'll be people looking for that as well. I think honestly, it's about, even if you're not confident, just go for it, because if you'll be in a room of people, probably also worrying to speak to people. Networking is not everyone's cup of tea. There'll be a lot of people that don't want to speak to anyone, but if you seem just that 1%, that extra confident, you will come across as the most confident person in the room, most likely. And if that happens, it'll kind of create a networking effect of confidence, and then you'll start building meaningful connections with the people. So I think, go and search networking events, go and search startup events in your area, go and learn about new topics, go and learn about different interests, because how can you find out your interests if you don't go and learn about different people's interests? So go and understand, go and learn, go and network as much as possible. And once you've found your niche, or even if you haven't, once you found something you're interested in, post about it, talk about it. People are actually interested in what you have to say. Jump into your ecosystem. If there's a competition about an idea, go and I preached about having a solution to a problem, but throw an idea in there, have a think, go to your business school. If you're at university, most business schools now have incubation programs. I was on one with when my company used to be called Abode. Then we rebranded to Housr like 2 years ago. We were on an accelerator program. There's so many opportunities out there these days to jump into, especially for university students. And for non-university students, if you want to start something, there's like NatWest accelerators. There's programs where you go as a wishful founder, and they help you become a better experienced founder, give you the skills, knowledge, team, and resources to build a company with people like yourself. So I'd say go for it. Be as confident as possible, even if you're the shyest person in the room. So I promise you'll come across as the most confident person there. And I think it's all about. Can you hear me?
1 second. I think it's all.
So no goes. And I think it's also all about making sure that you just go for it and jump into ecosystems and opportunities that are around you. And if there's not, try and create something. It's not the scariest thing in the world. It might seem it, but once you get into it, it's fine.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much. That's very good advice. And I think I can relate it to myself. I remember when I was collecting data for my research and trying to do that, I'd come from a purely academic background, and going into the field and into ecosystems, and it wasn't really my cup of tea, but I needed the data, so I had to do it. And I really never thought I would be here doing a fireside chat and all that. It's that need and sort of just go. So when you said just go for it, I really understood what you said, because that's what I used to say to myself, just go. What's the worst that could happen? It's the only things they say no, or, it doesn't work, and you try again. So I certainly do agree with that. So we'll just take one more question from Addy. Addy says, what's your views on ESG? Carbon emissions impacting housing drilling. So impacting housing drilling down to pricing increase, especially in short term. So your views on ESG and how that is affecting the pricing of houses.
I don't necessarily think it's affecting prices as such right now. I mean, we've got a sustainability partner where after a certain amount of swipes on the app, where a student's searching for a property, we plant a tree for the student. I work very closely with our sustainability partner, Play It Green, they're not just a tick box exercise for us. I've worked with them when I was a consultant. I've worked with them for all sorts of different things. They're really good. They're very good platform to help you not offset carbon. They don't like me preaching about offsetting carbon. It's all about, you know, re-education to make sure you don't have to be in a position to have to offset said carbon. But in essence, you know, you can plant a tree and offset your carbon. So I massively support it, and we're partnered with them to help us support that. We're also actually working with them to come up with an algorithm that automatically offsets the carbon emissions of all our properties on our platform by coming up with an energy report and then translating that into how many trees need to be planted to offset that carbon footprint, and then passing that cost on to the agents to be able to say they have sustainable housing. So I massively am for that, and we are actively trying to do stuff for that. In terms of prices, until certain taxes come in place that they have to be carbon neutral, or these properties have to be carbon neutral in with the bills and what they're paying and how they are emitting things around ESG. I don't think prices will start to move, and also I think public opinion, there'll be a public outcry if there's a tax been put in place to make sure you become more sustainable, and you're actually passing that extra cost onto your tenant to cover that cost, there'll be a massive outcry. So unless I'm missing something, I don't think they'll be affected that much, unless there is a heavy tax burden put in, somewhat similar to the green air zones when you're driving and things in the major cities, like some of the increases of vehicles. Some of the price increases of vehicles have been due to, you know, there's a higher demand now for electric vehicles because it actually costs way more to drive a petrol or diesel car, especially in the city centres. So to directly answer your question, I don't think there'll be much price increases, but also we are actively doing stuff at Housr around this topic.
Okay, great. I think that has been answered very well. Now, in terms of so this is my own final question before we sort of we usually have giveaways, we're just going to spin. But before we do that, if we look at this, you know, the way you have said, you know, the future of accommodation in general, you know, and student accommodation as well, is more digital immersion, where, you know, more peer-to-peer kind of housing and things like that. Now, that for people that are thinking about ways they can incorporate technology or tech or IT or whatever into their design, what do you think, what kind of advice would you give to them? So I'm thinking of this idea and I'm thinking about how to sort of automate it or to bring tech into it or things like that. What are some of the things I should have at the back of my mind?
I think the biggest thing is, I can answer this by relating it to Housr. So Housr is trying to be this, imagine a Swiss Army knife. You can do everything, can't you? You can open a bottle of beer, you can cut something, you can with scissors or a knife, you can do all sorts with the Swiss Army knife. And Housr is trying to be this Swiss Army knife for students to be able to deal with absolutely everything possible and centralize everything under one roof. But there's a very, very big difference between being known and doing something, being known for something first and doing it really well. You know, being known for that, being known for doing that one thing really well, and then gradually increasing your features to get to that point. So why I can relate to this question by saying that is because things don't need to have loads of tech straight away. You know, start with something first, automate one process first, see how that works, because then your experience of seeing how that works will tell you that actually that feature doesn't need automation. It just needs, you know, a link to a mobile app or a plugin. You know, so you learn about your product as you go along. So first we're starting with X amount of features that has told us how to navigate Y features and how we're going to navigate and add X features. So don't just go all in and add so-called tech to everything. Look at one part of your product or service that you can maybe automate and prioritize, because trying to add everything at once will cost you a lot and probably be ineffective, because you'll be burning the candle at multiple ends. You won't be known for something really well first. So I think gradually increase tech into your business if it's not a tech business already. Prioritize on the features that give you the most upfront reward and efficiency or time reducing effect, you know, and prioritize on that, and just be gradual, and you know, making sure that you've got the vision in your mind of where you want to be, and don't try and rush there. Don't try and rush to get there, because you will get there eventually. But if you rush, things can, if you build a building in 2 days, it's most likely going to fall down, isn't it? So you've got to be careful with it.
Yeah, good. Thank you very much, Harry, for that answer. Thank you. What we're going to do now, we'll hand over to Taranum. Taranum is going to do the spinner, and the giveaways we usually have are two £20 or £20 worth of Amazon vouchers, and then we have $46 worth of snacks from fully charged allergy friendly snacks. So those two groups. So Harry, that's some nice words here. Harry offers excellent advice on taking the initiative, connecting and building networks, and creating enterprise options to pursue. Okay, good. All right, so Taranum, all yours. We'll just wait for Taranum to.
Yes, please bear me with a second. And I think except Crystal there are none of them from.
No one from the US.
Yeah.
Okay, so is Crystal the only one from the States? So I think automatically it'll be Crystal then that would get the snacks. If she's the only, is there any other person from the US here other than Crystal? Yeah, no. So, okay, so Taranum, we'll just carry on with the Amazon vouchers, please. So if you want to share your screen.
I think everyone can see.
Yes, we can all see.
iPhone.
Okay, iPhone, I think that is Peter. So if you want to put in your email in the chat, and then you get the Amazon voucher sent to you. Okay, so iPhone. Okay, the second one, please. Seven. Okay, 7. So that's it. All right. We have the 2 winners of our Amazon voucher. Thank you very much, Taranum. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we have the 2 winners. We have iPhone, who is Peter, and Starter Hub 7. So I know both of them, so I can always get across to them. And Crystal, if you could just pop your email in the chat, and I'll reach out to you with necessary information or rather asking you for your address to get this snack sent to you. So we just have 10 minutes to go, and I think, and so I've taken Peter's email. Okay. Yes, 7, I have your email, like I've said. Okay, so Crystal, I'll just take yours. Spare with me a second. Okay. All right, so as we come to the end of the conversation, Harry, I just want to ask you, do you have any sort of words of advice for, young founders? What do you want to leave us with as we end this chat today?
I think it's been kind of spoken about generically and specifically throughout the whole chat. I think, there's a big fear of the unknown, to be honest, for a lot of things. When you've got an idea or something, just you know where to start. Just literally bring up a Google Doc or a document or a bit of paper and just start writing about your idea. Get it down, get it out of here onto paper. Because when you get it out of here onto paper, the process of you doing that, you start building and building and building that you're realizing, and before you know it, you've got an idea on paper. You can then take that bit of paper to a potential co-founder and then start discussing that bit of paper and turns into a presentation. That presentation gets you investment, it builds your idea. I know it's not as simple as that, but the first point of everything is just to get it down on a bit of paper, good old-fashioned pen and paper or a Google Doc. Just start, go for it, get it out of your head onto paper, and you never know what can happen.
Okay. But I think another thing is, so, having spoken to you, come across as quite confident, but not everyone is as confident as you. And we tend to see, especially at a young age, not every 18-year-old or not every 20-year-old is going to start a university or has that confidence to want to start that, so how can younger people that are not, and there's so many factors that contribute to them being that way. It might be their upbringing and their experiences generally.
Sure.
What are some of the things you have done, or what are some of the things they can do to sort of get a bit more confident, more self-belief?
Yeah, definitely. I think, look, let's just take this for example. When you're presenting in front of your class or you're presenting in front of a lot of people, when you've winged it and you have no idea what you're talking about, that's when you're most nervous and scared. You have no idea what you're doing. When you've learned it so much, you've built that knowledge base, you know exactly what you're talking about. You're naturally just confident because you know what you're talking about. You can answer thick questions, so on that basis, it's build your knowledge base, learn to the point that you are an expert in your field, or not even an expert, or just know an awful lot about what you're talking about. And you will naturally come across as confident because you understand what you are saying. You're not just regurgitating social media or what people have told you. You truly understand your answer to a question. So you will naturally come across more confident. And then once you start naturally being confident, that actually there's a certain reciprocation from the audience. You can feel that you've said something right, or you've come across as confident. That will then lead you to become genuinely more confident naturally over time. So I think to directly answer your question, it would be to learn as much as you possibly can about the topic or startup company or niche that you're interested in, and then that confidence will naturally occur most of the time from having that knowledge.
Okay, and that's something, and I also think it, like, find ways to sort of engage yourself in the community. So maybe, I don't know, join clubs or something, but you're never really going to get very comfortable if you're always just locked up in your own world. So it's a case of really going out and seeing, sort of interacting with people. Now, I think, how can people reach out to you? So I don't know if Taranum, I was supposed to share your LinkedIn profile. Sorry, I've not done it. But when I send out the recording to the email list, I would share it. How can people connect with you? Where, if they want to know sort of where you're going to speak at next, and just sort of connect with you, where can they do that?
Yeah, just follow me on LinkedIn. I'm quite active on LinkedIn, just Harry Panter. And follow me on Instagram. It's just either the Housr account, which is Housr_app, or Harry_Panter. Just reach out. I'm more than happy to speak to anybody, and I'm going to put my email address in here. So if any questions or anything, I want to talk about something, I'm more than happy to speak about anything. I like talking, so maybe too much. So just give me a message and I'll chat to you. No worries.
Okay, great. So thank you very much, Harry. I know how busy your schedule is, so I really do appreciate taking out time to speak to us, and I really learned a lot. I've really learned a lot. I've taken notes, and I'll make a summary of our conversation and send it out at some point later. So thank you for your time, and we'll be in touch.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you for having me, and I hope everyone found that useful.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we did.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, thanks everyone. We've now come to the end of the Fireside Chat, and I'll let everyone know about our October Fireside Chat. So thank you everyone, and bye.
Thank you all.
Thank you for arranging such kind of fruitful and informative Fireside Chats.
Thank you.
Great session.
Okay.
Bye.
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 Bye.